Are you ready?
Hello and welcome to the Critical Cinema Club. I'm Sean,
I'm Colm.
and today we're here to talk about the new trailer that's just dropped for 28 Years Later Part 2. I don't know if that's what they're calling it, the Bone Temple.
The Bone Temple.
The Bone Temple. If you're a regular viewer, you know our thoughts on the first 28 Years Later film. And now this new trailer's dropped and we wanted to jump on and talk about it. So we'll dive into the details in a second, but what was your overall impression of the trailer? What did you think?
It's a bit of a difficult one because I liked the first film all the way up to that final act. It was when Ralph Fiennes' character of Dr. Kelson kind of came into it. That was all the bits I was a bit like, I'm not sure. The good thing about this trailer is I think it's going to show more of his background and more of how he gets to that point. And I did come away from that trailer thinking, okay, there's more to see here.
I was getting ready to rip it one because I was so sure it was going to look terrible. And actually, the trailer looked better than I thought it was going to look. But then I also thought the first trailer for 28 Years Later looked good as well. So, you know, that wasn't quite reflected in the finished product, I thought. But yeah, it's interesting that you say the film for you started to fall apart by the time he was in the film. I felt the same way. And then I thought, well, as I'm watching the trailer, I thought this film is about him. He looks like he might be the main character. I got the impression that it was like a prequel leading up to the events of 28 Years Later. It looked like I'm going to call them the Jimmy Gang. I don't know if that's right, but it seems like they've got maybe a rocky relationship there. It feels like the two clans know each other. I know he's not really a clan because he's on his own, but it seems like it's going to be exploring that side of things. Because I didn't actually, unless it was a split second, was anybody from that first film in it? Apart, you know, from the other camp, you know, the young lad and his dad, just Spike, and that was very, very briefly, wasn't it? I thought I saw him very quickly. So it seems like this is the other half of the story, and then the final film will be whatever happens after that, I guess.
Just to go back to that gang, the Jimmies, they're actually called the Jimmies as far as I know from what I've been reading. And I was looking at the cast list, and all of the cast members that are a part of the Jimmy gang are all called Jimmy something. So all their first names are Jimmy. So it's obvious that they're centered around Jimmy Savile, which, by the way, there's spoilers for 28 Years Later for anybody who hasn't seen the film. And if you're watching this and you haven't seen 28 Years Later, then what the fuck are you doing watching this?
Well, if you've not seen it and you've watched this up to now, you must be thinking, what on earth are they talking about? the Jimmy Gang.
With the Jimmies, they're all wearing the blonde wigs. They've got some of it might be their natural hair. They've got the tracksuits, wearing all the rings and the jewelry and stuff, and they're obviously centered around Jimmy Savile. And the interesting thing with this is that 28 days later, the infection started in the early 2000s, and it was before Jimmy Savile was outed, before he died, before anything was known about him. So I feel that there's a lot of hidden meanings here. There's hidden meanings that this gang also feels a little bit like a cult, a bit like the Manson gang, or the Manson family, if you will, because the main character on the Jimmy gangs, played by Jack O'Connell, is wearing an upside down crucifix. So there's two things going on there. It's like anti-establishment or against. He comes from a family that was religious. His dad was a priest, and he's seen his family killed or infected, or, you know, he's seen such a traumatic thing. And it's almost like he's lost his faith. But at the same time, he probably sees himself as the Antichrist.
I think I still have a bit of a problem. They better have a good reason for it because it feels like it's not in good taste. So I saw a lot of this online. I would say some of these people arguing this perhaps weren't around then. You and I were. But people were arguing, oh, well, you know, when the infection broke out, it was before Jimmy Savile was outed. So I thought, well, yeah, that's true. And then people would argue he was a huge star and it makes sense that kids would be upset. No, I don't think he was that big a star in 2001. We definitely knew who he was. He was a famous guy, obviously. But I don't think he was as beloved at that time as he would have been 10, 15 years earlier. So I still don't really buy it as a reason. I think the Teletubbies that they were watching, they were a bigger star than Jimmy Savile was. So I still think it's weird. I still don't like it at all. And it seems like, I guess it's probably going to build up to the body that Spike and his dad find in that cottage. That's obviously going to be a part of the film. I'm guessing it might even be that character because there's a new character in there that they showed quite a lot, a guy with long hair who wasn't infected. There was like another guy. But it seemed to me, I don't know if you took this as a takeaway, it seemed that maybe there's a defector. There's like a girl with a red tracksuit on. It seemed to centre on her quite a lot. It seems like some of it's going to be her story. and she seems a bit different than the other guys in the Jimmy gang. And I wonder if she might be someone who leaves.
There's a click in the trailer where they're all sat around a table, and it almost looks like the house that Spike lives in on the island, because there's a similar mirror in the background and like something above the door.
Yeah,
And she's in the background when Jack O'Connell's Jimmy is like slamming his hand down on the table, and it's almost like everybody else is scared of him, and Spike's there. So I'm wondering if they end up on, I forget the name of the island. Sorry, people from the northeast.
yeah. Is it Holy something Island?
So I think it's a good point that you made, that it looks like they're going to be a bit of a thorn in the side for Ralph Fiennes' character Kelson. I'm interested to see more about his character. I mean, I thought it was very unhinged, very weird. How can anybody really stay sane when they're living amongst what's happened? You know, everybody's lost everything. And one of the things that I did notice, and I've written this down, so if you see me looking down, I was just looking at my notes. There's a voiceover. He states that things we take for granted will one day pass away completely. And I think that signifies that everything's come to an end. But it's also, the voiceover also says that men will no longer communicate. I feel that it's trying to present the whole world. This is the end of the world. But is this purgatory? Are we all these characters living in purgatory? And it's kind of like a survival of the fittest. But the fittest are no longer there anymore. Everybody's a little bit like gone with what's happened, and they're all, like I said, they're all in purgatory. I just think it's an interesting point. But the other thing to put with that is, I think that speech is about time, and it's about how the trailer looks back and there's the train, and then the next shot is the train in the present where it's all crashed and all smashed up, and I think it's the train from the last film, and that just goes to show that time's stopped. Time's not moving forward. This is where we are now. This is purgatory.
Yeah, that seems like that train is probably going to be the setting of something that's happened in the past, and it's going to bring it full circle for that Dr. Kelson, isn't it? But it was interesting what you said about communication and time, because in the first film, everyone's forbidden from going to see because they all think he's crazy. But if they'd just gone to talk to him, he was actually quite a level-headed guy, just a bit odd. And maybe that's some sort of commentary on today. Maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but perhaps it's trying to say something like that.
That's what we're doing here. We're looking deep into it.
Well, this is what we do. So yeah, maybe they're making a point because your neighbour, they're not talking. I don't really know my neighbour, but in this social media age, do we interact with anybody really? But yeah, it does seem that there was a quick flash of there was an old photo with him and his wife, I assume, and so it does seem like it's going to follow the outbreak from his point of view, how he became the Bone Doctor. So it does seem like a bit of a side quest.
I was looking forward to seeing where Spike goes from here, the continuation of Spike's story. But I think it's obvious that Spike becomes part of the Jimmies because he probably has no choice. He's probably caught up in this cult because if he doesn't, they'll kill him. Yeah. It's like he's trying to play ball until he finds his way out. And I feel that Spike's going to take a bit of a sidestep in this film, but he's going to become integral to how it progresses towards the end. It'll be interesting. This is what trailers do. They kind of lead you down a path, and it sometimes isn't the right direction. But it'd be interesting to see how Spike interacts with Jack O'Connell's character and where we go with this. But the other thing was quite prominent in this trailer is Samson. The alpha. Has Kelson tamed Samson?
Well, it didn't seem so, because in that film, he was trying to kill him still.
Yeah.
But what I did note in that trailer is I felt like Samson was showing too much emotion. The rage virus, to my mind, is just pure blind rage. There's no room for any other emotion. But it showed you in the trailer, he was doing things with his face, like there was a few different emotions at once. And that, to me, flies in the face of what the rage virus is supposed to be. I thought it was 100% blind rage, nothing else. And maybe I'm looking too deep into a facial expression, but I felt like they were trying to convey some sort of thought process in his mind. Do you know which bit I'm talking about?
Yeah. I kind of thought something similar, and then I felt, well, this is 28 years later, and the virus could possibly evolve or mutate to the point where it still can give the infected awareness, but they're trapped inside of rage. So they can almost control themselves to a point before rage takes over. I don't know if I'm reading something that isn't even written, but I feel that there could be something there with that.
I think that's almost like I Am Legend territory. Where
Mm.
do you remember the Will Smith version anyway? Where it felt like at the end of the outtake, the alternative ending, where he almost brings them back to being normal, and I felt like that's been that might be something that they're going to do in I Am Legend too. So I don't know when that's coming out, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about changing up on what it is. It was a bit like in Resident Evil when they started doing games with people with flowers coming out their head. I was like, just give me the zombies, man. Don't mess about. So maybe I just a bit stuck in my ways, but I don't enjoy moving the goalposts.
You in that Resident Evil franchise, I feel like you're a poster boy for them.
I love it. I was actually thinking of the games,
Ah,
but yes, they did it. They followed suit in the films as well. But it, I don't know. I think you should stick to what you're good at. But maybe I'm old fashioned. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know what everyone else thinks who's watching.
here's a question for you. Do you think because that train is very close to the Bone Temple, which Kelson's built, obviously that's a continuation from the previous film. Do you think he was on that train when it crashed?
Yeah, I think so. Because they were showing the train. They did a flashback to people sat on the train in normal times, and then they showed a bit of his previous life. So, I mean, it just leaves me wondering how much of this film. I don't know what you think. I don't know if the whole film is like a flashback leading up to the last movie, or will it be a continuation from the last film with flashbacks throughout? Do you know what I'm getting? It seems like a lot of the film seems to be focused on what has happened before the events of the previous film. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know which way they're going to go.
Unless they're doing it in two parts, two halves. So the first half of the film is building up to the end of the last film, and then it continues for the second half. I wouldn't put it past Danny Boyle and
Like probably.
Alex Garland, and I forget who's directing this one. Nia, some I can't. I really should check. We don't do research on this channel,
So
because
we wing it, but I think this is what most people's conversations are like, aren't they? They're just like just sort of saying what we think without any informed information. Like, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I still feel like they fumbled it. I feel like, and it's been interesting since we posted the last video. Um, it's very divisive. This film. It seemed like 50% of the people thought along the same lines as us, and 50% of the people thought it was the best thing ever. And I still can't get my head around that crowd. I don't see it. So what I will say is the trailer has done its job, because I went from fuck this franchise to right, okay, maybe it's worth a watch to see what it will be. I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt because the previous films were really good.
Hmm.
So I'm interested to see from a critical point of view, I guess, how are they going to turn the ship around, or would it be more of the same? It'll be a fascinating watch. I'm almost not going to be entertained, but I'm going to just sort of, because of my we talked about it before. I did like film studies and stuff, didn't I, at uni? So I think I'll be taking like an analytical approach when I watch this next film. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it looks good?
Well, one of us has to take an analytical approach.
Yeah, I'm going to say that, and then I just talk shit. So I don't know if it's done me any good those 3 years at uni, but
Well, one thing I will be doing is I'll be more likely to watch the next film than I am to watch any new Star Trek. That's for sure. So
oh, what's Star Trek? What's that? Is that like Star Wars?
Star Trek used to be this really good sci-fi, like proper sci-fi, and then it died.
Well, it's funny because it does. If we had a chat the other night, and anyone who's watching this video, we had a really good chat about Star Trek and this Star Trek Dead, and I came out of this conspiracy theory. I think they're making shit films and TV shows on purpose, and then when they made 28 years later, I was like, this is the worst possible thing they could have done. Like, it's like they've done it on purpose. There's a global conspiracy, I think, to just make the worst media, music, everything. It's all shit. Everything's shit.
Music these days is shit.
It
When
really
was the last time you went to the cinema and actually saw a film that blew you away?
Oh, June 2, probably, I thought was
Oh,
really
yeah.
good. Um,
Yeah.
in parts. I really enjoyed, I went to see Naked Gun last week, and I thought that was a lot better than I expected. It's rare. Sometimes when I watch a comedy, it's like, oh, lol, you know. But then it was like capital LMAO. I thought actually, I was like, a proper proper like gagging. Like I thought it was really funny. So that was worth a watch. I thought that was good.
Right, I'll give that a watch.
Yeah.
Right, back to 28 years later, the Bone Temple, Boneyard, Bone Temple,
The Bone Collector.
Bone Collector,
Is that a different film? The Bone Collector. Yeah.
Bone Idol.
That's me.
So a few more bits that I picked up on. Obviously, going back to the Jimmies as being a cult, and in the first film, you saw the residents of the island. They all put the masks on, as like that to me felt like a cult like ritual thing that they do there, like, or almost like pagans, for instance. But the Jimmies are all kind of like the opposite, and they've got these masks on, and then you see people strung up. And we saw that in the first film with one of the infected hung up upside down in the house. And are we going to see a kind of like a cult ritual, but with the non-infected, or I'm going to hazard a guess that Jack O'Connor's character is batshit crazy to the point where he's just going to do completely ludicrous things with absolutely no reason behind them.
It's kind of like, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, I'm back to the trailer. What is this film actually about? It's a bit like the first film. There's been an outbreak. Jim's got to survive. The second film, the outbreak's been stopped, and it's about reintegration back into the country. 28 years later was about this young lad's coming of age, and this new one, it's about, I don't know what it's about. Do you know what I'm saying? It's got the doctor and a bit about what's cracked off, and then you've got this Jimmy gang, and they're running around being twats. But what's the crux of the story? If I had to sum it up to someone, what is it? And I didn't really get that from the trailer.
I've got an idea.
What?
So 28 years later, that's about the loss of child innocence. Spike's been asked to grow up sooner than he would need to or would have to. And this film is about the corruption of child innocence. That's my understanding, because this is this cult. And I feel like the only person who's out there that can help Spike will be Kelson. So I feel that that's possibly the hidden message behind it.
With Teletubby ninjas.
Teletubby ninjas.
Yeah, Jimmy Savile Power Rangers. Yeah, it was funny, wasn't it? Because when I watched that film, I so desperately wanted to say to you, Jimmy Savile ninjas, and I just couldn't. And it's like, when you have seen the film, everyone says, did you see the Jimmy Savile ninjas? It just completely overshadowed. I'm sorry to keep harping on, but it really overshadowed that film, which was mid at best.
I think that film, the things you can take out of that first film, the visuals are absolutely phenomenal. The soundtrack, I think, is brilliant. It's such a good soundtrack. The music in that film, it's very atmospheric as well.
It's well made. It is a well-made film. It's just the story was weird, and the first third showed some real promise up until the point where they got back to the island. But even then, I started to think, oh, this isn't the way. I would have thought that the whole film would be them stuck on the mainland trying to get back. So I was a bit. That's where it started going wrong, I think.
Yeah, and I think that possibly would have been being a bit more of a linear story can sometimes be a bit stronger. But one of the things that I kind of stuck in my mind is that if you go back to the original film directed by Danny Boyle, and then the second film wasn't directed by Danny Boyle, and it looked like it wasn't directed by Danny Boyle, it's a weaker film. It's not a bad film. It's still good for what it is. It's not one of those films that can stand up on its own, but it's telling that it wasn't directed by Boyle. Then you've got 28 years later that was directed by Danny Boyle, and it's a very good looking film, etc., etc. And this next one isn't. And this is one thing that worries me. I'm not saying that somebody else cannot come in and make a film that is just as good or looks better or blah, blah, blah. But for me, these films are very much Boyle's style. And without his style, it doesn't quite work the same. And I feel that when you put this in the hands of somebody else, whether they're competent or not, you're always going to get a different kind of style to that. It's, this director, she's going to put her own stamp on it, and it could be interesting, or it could be absolute dog shit, and everybody might turn around and say, well, Boyle should have directed that. So it will be interesting to see what this film looks like, how it flows. And, I'm hoping that the soundtrack is as good as the previous one.
Yeah, I mean, judging from the last film, I'm willing to throw the dice, to be honest. because I really didn't rate it. I mean, you're probably getting this if you've got this far with the video and you've watched the last one. I did not rate that last film at all, and I think it might benefit from someone else stepping in and just a different eye, fresh eyes. Like,
Hmm.
what do you mean, Jimmy Savile Ninja? What the hell's going on? What are you on about?
Yeah, I think you might be right there. I mean, I'm just kind of trying to evoke conversation with that. It's my opinion is sometimes when you get a fresh pair of eyes, can produce something better.
Yeah,
But
like The Empire Strikes Back.
absolutely, yes, The Empire Strikes Back is probably the best example of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'm once I'm excited for this film, I'm certainly intrigued. I'd like to know more about where Spike's journey is going because I'm hoping that if they're going to continue these films beyond this, I'm hoping that they all center around Spike, and I'm hoping that Spike isn't going to become a side character in his own story.
Which is what's happened in this very trailer. So this is what I'm sort of saying about the weird story. I get like they've got ideas about where they want the story to go, and sometimes you're forcing it through, and it doesn't flow naturally for people who are watching. So you've set this whole story up about Spike, and okay, for those people that are still invested, okay, what's going to happen next for Spike? And then the trailer for the next film, he's not even in it really, and it's a bit like The Empire Strikes Back not being about Luke Skywalker. If we're going to go back to that, so imagine that trailer comes out for Empire Strikes Back, and it's all about Chewbacca's adventures leading up to, not that we didn't like Chewbacca, but you'd be a bit like, okay, yeah, we like Chewbacca, but what happened to Luke?
Yeah, Chewbacca's not a main character.
No, but that's the worst analogy ever. But it's the only one I've got right now. But that's sort of how I feel. Where the one good takeaway from that film was I did like Spike and the
Yeah.
actor and the character. I liked it. And then for that trailer to not even really have him in it, and it actually focused on the bits that I thought were the weakest parts of that film. I was like, oh, but even despite that, it still looked interesting. So I'm willing to give it a go, but I'm still not sure, mate.
I wonder if Aaron Taylor Johnson's character is going to be in this one. I know that there's a rule that if someone leaves the island, you don't go after him. But maybe he will. Maybe he will come up at some point in this film. Maybe we'll see his demise. I thought we were going to see that in the first film. I mean,
Yeah,
they probably should have killed him off in the first film because he just disappeared halfway through.
yeah, it's weird, mate. It's weird. And where's Killian Murphy? I thought he was going to be in all this somewhere.
I've written something down on this, so it has been confirmed that Killian Murphy is in this film. Whether it's going to be a cameo at the end or a cameo right at the start. I know. Do you remember when the first trailer for the previous film came out and there was that zombie or infected, and everybody thought it was Killian Murphy's character Jim?
Yeah.
Well, that's the other interesting thing is that his name's Jim, and we got the Jimmies. So maybe there's a thing there. Maybe he's their leader as such. I don't know. I mean, it kind of spits in the face of everything that the character went through in the original film. But
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm gonna. Yeah, I've got a theory, and if this happens, it will confirm my conspiracy film theory that they're making shit films on purpose. My theory is Jim will be in it for 2 minutes, do something really shit, and get killed.
I agree with you on that.
And everyone will just be like, I can't believe you brought him back just to kill him off. That's what I think they're going to do. And if they do that, I'm convinced they're doing it on purpose. A bit like with, well, you wouldn't know, would you? But they did a Twin Peaks. It was called Twin Peaks: The Return because everyone had clamored. Did you ever watch Twin Peaks?
I did watch the original, yeah.
And so they brought for 25 years. People were begging, please make more Twin Peaks. And then they did, and it was nothing like Twin Peaks. And it was entertaining, but they completely fucked with people because they just really didn't want to make.
David Lynch didn't want to do it anymore.
He didn't really want to. I guess he did and he didn't. But probably a better example. I'm rambling. Sorry. The Matrix 4. They made that shit on purpose. They did, and I will not hear anything else. They made
legacy sequels.
Well, I think they even made an inside joke in the film about Warner Brothers forcing them to make something or someone else will. So I think they nuked it on purpose. And I just wonder. I mean, is this far out there as a conspiracy theory? Are they doing this on purpose? I can't think of any reason they'll make such a shit film.
Well, we'll find out with 28 years later, the bone idleness.
Yeah, I mean, I do. Despite everything I've said, I do hope for the best. You know, I'm not. I don't go into films looking for reasons to rip it down. But if it disappoints me, I will speak my mind. And
But you just expect the worst, like
yeah, I
I
do
did.
now. I do now after that previous film. And if it pleasantly surprises me, I will say so, and I won't bash it on on purpose. If I think it's good, I will say so. But from what I've seen, I'm not sure it will be.
Well, here's a hot take. Right, this is where I am. Just to kind of wrap this video up, I feel. Unless you've got anything else to add to
Yeah, well, no,
into the trailer. My hot take in all of this is that I'm so desperate to like a series of films or franchise that is new and coming out now because I feel that we just don't have much anymore. I think franchises coming out like the Jurassic Park and even the Marvel films had gone down the pan, and the new DC films. I started watching Peacemaker season 2, and I'm not really into it as much as I was in the first season. And I'm just desperate to like something. I just want something that I can enjoy, and I'm desperate to like this. And like I said, I really liked the first 2 acts of the previous film, and I felt it fell apart in the third. And as you said, this sequel is concentrating on the elements that didn't work. I'm hoping that they can turn it round.
I mean, they didn't know that when they were making the film because I assume they were made at the same time. But yes, they are milking that dead cat dry, aren't they?
I'm never going to get away with that, am I?
No, you're not living that one down. No, not at all.
I'm just really hoping that they can turn this around.
But you'll enjoy this. Since the stream began, it's 28 minutes later, and I think that's a good time to call it a day.
I think so too.
So, unless you've got anything else to add?
No, the only thing I want to add is if anybody's got any comments or any thoughts or anything they want to add to this, then by all means, just bang it in the comments.
Absolutely, yeah, we do enjoy the debate. Some of the comments are great, so some of you will disagree with us because we know that from the last video. We invite your comments, and we'll see what you've got to say. So, with that said, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more content from us, and we'll see you on the next video. I've been Sean.
I've been Colm.
Thanks for watching the Critical Cinema Club, and we'll see you next time.
Cheerio.